Aujourd'hui, je rencontre une géante, une femme qui a littéralement changé notre manière de voir le monde animal. Des mois de préparation pour 20 minutes d'interview. Et je pense honnêtement que j'ai rarement été aussi stressé dans ma vie.
Je suis complètement stressé. C'est incroyable de rencontrer quelqu'un comme ça. C'est des gens qui ont changé l'histoire.
Alors avec l'équipe, on nous met dans une salle et on nous dit qu'on a 1 heure pour s'installer, pas 1 minute de plus. Là, c'est le gros rush. 1 heure pour trouver les cadres, monter les lumières, tester le son. C'est court, mais ça se fait. Et au bout d'1 heure, la voilà ma géante. Jane Goodall. Et en un instant, tout le stress disparaît. Elle incarne le calme et la sérénité. Alors, on équipe la géante et on est parti. Elle me sert un verre d'eau et surtout une leçon de vie.
My name is Antoine and I popularize science on internet, and I'm also a researcher at MIT in conservation. So in this show, our concept is that we define giants, and for us giants it's people that brought ideas to the world that completely changed the world. We believe that if we climb on their shoulders, we can see further. And to us, without a doubt, you're a giant. So my first question is, what do we see if we climb on your shoulders?
I'm a very small giant. Well, what you see on my shoulders, honestly, I think different people see different things. Some people get inspired and from that position, they see the way I see that there is hope in the future. But, you know, there's only hope if there's enough people who get together to take action. That's the downside. There is hope, there is time. We do have a window of time. The scientists who've investigated everything say we have a window of time, but it's closing. And so my job is to get more and more and more people to take action.
Someone in our community asked us a question. He was wondering whether chimpanzees, you had the luck to be a lot with them, do you think they are conscious of their body and of their existence in the world?
You know, I honestly don't know that. They're certainly conscious of themselves as being an individual separate from other individuals. And we learn very strange things about chimpanzee mentality and how they see themselves. And one story which I find very disturbing was a young chip who was brought up in a human family until he was 4. So he'd never really seen another chimp. And then the family couldn't look after him anymore, so it was decided to introduce him gradually to a chimpanzee group. So the first day, he was fine, and he met some other young chimps, and he patted them as though they were, you know, dogs, which he knew. And it was a good day, and everybody was happy. It's going to be fine. And they took him home. And the next day, he went off to meet the chimps again. And as soon as he saw them, he started to scream. Screamed, and he screamed. And he was so terrified they had to take him home. So what happened between that first day and his second meeting with chimps? I believe he looked at himself in a mirror. So he suddenly realized, because another chimpanzee who'd been brought up as a human, she was given a big pile of photos, and she had to divide them into 2 piles, one human, one animal, all kinds of animals and humans. And she only made one mistake. That was putting herself into the human pile, not her father, not other chimps, but herself.
It's crazy.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's crazy. If I have the luck one day to meet a chimpanzee, do you think he knows that it's my species who's responsible for the destruction of his habitat?
I don't think so. We're learning more and more about the consciousness of non-human animals, so I could be wrong. But from all the years I spent with chimpanzees, I don't think that's the kind of thing that they would be aware of.
Today you dedicate most of your energy to broad attention to crisis coming. What is the message you would like to emphasize for our generation?
I think the most important message right now, we're going through these really dark times, is to realize that each single one of us makes an impact on the planet every single day. And unless we're in deep poverty, or we're really tiny children, or we're disabled or something like that, you know, we can choose what sort of impact we make. And this can make a huge difference. So many people feel, they look around at the world and they look around at climate change, loss of biodiversity, poverty, unsustainable lifestyles, poisoning of the soil from industrial agriculture, pollution of the ocean, all these things. And they just feel helpless, hopeless, and they kind of give up. But, you know, the thing is that if you try and solve the problems of the world, you can't. But think of what you could do where you live. Maybe you could start a group that picks up litter. Maybe you could start a group that goes to visit sick children in hospital. Maybe you could start a group doing something. And that makes you feel good because you make a difference. Then you want to do more to feel better. And then when you realize that around the world there are other people like you doing just the same, that gives you hope. So we have a saying, I don't know if you have it in France, but think globally, act locally. It's the wrong way around. Think globally, you're depressed. Act locally, you feel, yes, I am making a difference. So it should be act locally, and then you dare think globally.
So how do you deal with this dissonance between being hopeful and want to engage in the transition and also seeing a terrible situation in the world? How do you deal with this dissonance?
How do I deal with it?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, you know, I just feel my mission on this planet is to give people hope. I'm obstinate by nature. I'm not going to give up. Yes, we're facing horrible obstacles, and I feel more upset now than I have in years because of these two great wars, particularly what's going on in Gaza, which is nobody doing anything about genocide. You know, we have United Nations, we have all these people, and yet America goes on giving weapons of destruction to Netanyahu. And it's horrible. But if we put the wars aside for a moment and we look at what we're doing to the environment, and, you know, we look about the loss of species and all the rest of it, there we do have a window of time. There we can make a difference if we get together, roll up our sleeves and take action.
And I'm a student, and many of our subscribers are also students. Concretely, tomorrow, what can I do in this direction? Because hoping is beautiful, but how do we put this in action? It's
well,
hard.
Hope without action is not. Hope is about action. It's like, you know, I have this metaphor of humanity being at this mouth of the long dark tunnel with a little star at the end that's hope. And it's no good sitting at the mouth of the tunnel and sort of hoping that star will come. No, we have to roll up our sleeves, and we have to get through that tunnel and get past all these obstacles like climate change, etc., to reach the star. And the good news, there's enough people working on every single one of the problems we face today, including war. People working on solving. But so often they're working in their own little narrow tunnel, and they're not thinking holistically. So they may solve their problem, and that may create another problem. And if they thought ahead holistically, they could find the people trying to solve that problem and work together.
What do you actually mean by thinking holistically?
Well, I'll give you one example, a very simple one. Here's a group of people, and they've been fighting a coal mine, and they've closed it. They're thrilled. I mean, all these CO2 emissions, we've stopped them going into the atmosphere. But because they didn't think holistically, they haven't thought about what it's doing to the livelihood of hundreds of coal miners. If they've thought about it, then they could collaborate with those people who actually train those whose industry has closed to work to find a career in a different way, and then it would be win-win-win.
How do you think we'll be able to deal with the yeah, let's...
No, don't open that.
Yeah, you're right.
Plenty for us both.
You're right.
Here you are.
Merci beaucoup.
Right. Cheers.
Santé. Santé in French. You see a bridge between speaking about the war and climate change?
A connection between war and climate. I mean, the effect of war and all the mechanism of war on the environment is huge. It's never mentioned when people talk about, you know, the percentage of farming or industrial programs on the emission of CO2. The military is never mentioned. And in peacetime even, there's all these things going on with the military, the developments. But in war, it must be a huge impact on the environment. And then you get the bombing and you get the landmines and the impact that has on wildlife. Huge impact.
But I believe as I'm a scientist and I have impact on media, I believe I have a huge responsibility, but it's tough to choose your fights, you know? So where do you think, what are the priorities?
Well, I think for one thing, because everything is so interconnected, that it's no good just tackling one or two or three of the problems that we face today. We need to tackle them all, and there are people tackling them all, and we just need to collaborate more because, you know, okay, everybody says climate change, but climate change is so linked with loss of biodiversity, and loss of biodiversity in turn, you know, is creating climate change, and how we've got all these hurricanes and floods and heat waves and fires and all the rest of it. So basically, we need to get together and tackle everything as a team. I'll do this. Okay, I'll do that. Let's get them to do this. So we tackle them all together.
And do you think the life you had of exploring, understanding animal behavior, if you were a young scientist today and you started your career, do you think being an explorer still exists today?
Well, if I was a young scientist today, I think we're going through the most exciting time ever if we want to explore animal intellect, because the field's opening up. I mean, if I'd mentioned 20 years ago the fact that goldfish could be taught to play soccer, I'd be laughed and laughed and laughed at, but it's happening. And, you know, we're finding out about the intelligence of animals of all sort. And one of the stories I love, a very new one, the pig who was rescued from slaughter and loved watching her rescuer, who had a little sanctuary, who was an artist. So an easel was set up and a brush was put in Pig Casso's mouth, and Pig Casso began. I mean, she was so excited. So when she died, her owner was utterly devastated. And so I said, well, why don't you start a sanctuary for animal artists? Not a sanctuary, an academy for animal artists. So she said, oh, that's a brilliant idea. So the first one, I just got the picture 2 days ago. There was a sheep, and the sheep watched her painting, and the sheep was shown the pictures of Picasso painting, and the sheep is now painting. And then I just got, 2 days ago, I was brought a little painting this big on canvas, and it was done by a parakeet. And this parakeet loves painting and gets the little paintbrushes given. And he's done a painting where down below it's brown and the little marks like this, and up above it's green. So it's like a forest.
Nice. That's so cool. In 90 years, you've been at the forefront of seeing all the biodiversity erosion and the habitat destruction. And still, your big message is about hope. So where do you find the fuel for this? What fuels this hope?
Well, first of all, the young people in our Roots and Shoots program. and other young people who are in programs, they're changing the world. There's no question. They are tackling projects to help people, animals, environment, and they're just rolling up their sleeves, and they're full of energy and passion and determination, and some places courage. They're changing the world. Secondly, give nature a chance. Nature will come back and make beautiful places we have totally destroyed. Animal species on the brink of extinction can be given another chance. At one time, Little Gombe National Park was part of a great forest across Africa. When I began in 1960, mid-1980s, Gombe was a little island of forest, and all around were bare hills. And there were too many people for the land to support. They were too poor to buy food from elsewhere. Their own land was destroyed, over-farmed, and they're cutting down the forest to survive, to make money from charcoal or timber, or to make more land to grow food for their families. But because we began a program to help the people find ways of living sustainably without destroying the forest, now you fly over Gombe, you don't see the bare hills, grasses, and then the little bushes and shrubs, and finally the trees have come back. They're still coming back, and the animals are still beginning to recolonize these places. And that's just one example of the hundreds of projects around the world, the rewilding ones, the places where habitat is being restored. It's just incredible. And then there's the human intellect. We're beginning to find ways of living in greater harmony with the natural world, like renewable energy and so on. Again, problems to solve. We do lovely stuff with solar energy and wind energy, but that takes batteries, and batteries are fueled with lithium, and lithium mining is now destroying huge areas.
You had a beautiful life, as I said to us, you're Giles. What are your next big adventures? Would you like to go back to Tanzania?
I go back twice a year to Tanzania. I go to Gombe. I don't usually see chimps, but the last time I went, the one chimpanzee I know from the old days when they were like my family, she actually came to my house, and then she led me up along the river. It's beautiful, beautiful area with her two last children, Gremlin. And the latest child she had is called Goodall. I call him Goodally, but they call him Goodall. So, and it was just the most beautiful, beautiful occasion. So I go to Gombe twice a year, mostly just to encourage the field staff and, show that I'm still super interested in all their discoveries. If you'd asked me 10 years ago what would my next great adventure be, I would have said I wanted to go to Papua New Guinea, where all these new species are being discovered. But I couldn't do that now. So my next great adventure is going to be dying. When you die, there's either nothing, there's the end, or there's something. And I happen to believe there's something because experiences I've had, because of all that I've read, because of the people I've met who've had these similar experiences. So if there's nothing, it's nothing. But if there's something, what is more exciting than discovering what that something is?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your time. It was really a pleasure, and it really matters. Your voice will be carried.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm closer to dying than you, so it's all right for me to think like that. But don't you dare think like it.
I won't.
You've got many more adventures before that.